Good evening and welcome to Truckee Talks. I'm your host, Maya Schneider. And with me on the show this week is Diane, Executive Director of the Truckee Trails Foundation. Susan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Maya.
It's nice to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Well, you're coming up on a really important anniversary, and we're going to be talking about that in just a few minutes. But before we talk about Truckee Trails, I want to ask a little bit about you and your background. You're the Executive Director of the Truckee Trails Foundation, but how did you come to be that? How did you get interested in trails?
Well, I've been a trail user here in Truckee for 15 years and very much enjoyed being able to walk out my door on Boom Street and be able to walk up to the graveyard and hop across 89 and walk to Sierraville if I wanted to. Yeah. And I left Truckee for about 5 years to go to Napa Valley and work in public relations there. And when I got back about a year ago, I headed out on my regular walk and came upon the bypass.
Development has gotten in the way.
I am definitely wasn't against the bypass. I think that's something we needed, but it really brought it home. It really made me realize that a lot of development is happening in Truckee, and what could I do, you know, to make sure that I still have access to the open space that's so important to my lifestyle. And I went down to the planning department, and coincidentally, it was timing, the master plan was just about ready to be published.
And that was a master plan for a trail system throughout Truckee.
Right, yeah. Trail and Bikeway Master Plan. And it was published in November of 2001, and I bought a copy and took it and read it over Christmas, and got so excited. I couldn't believe the 2 years of effort that the community had put into a trail plan. So in January, I decided to go ahead and start a nonprofit organization and make a commitment to helping facilitate implementation of the Trail and Bikeway Master Plan.
Now that's no small commitment. Starting a foundation, recruiting a board, that's not small. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Or condolences, I'm not sure which. Well, I mentioned earlier an important anniversary coming up. The Truckee Trails and Bikeways, Master Plan was adopted by the Town Council of the Town of Truckee on April 4th of 2002.
Right.
And now in April of 2003, it's up for an annual review. Tell us a little bit about that process.
The annual review is a requirement that grew out of public comment at the April 4th meeting. One of the people who spoke on behalf and in support of the trail plan suggested that an annual review would be a really good idea, especially to keep the community involved. This is a community-based tool, and so the verbiage, the text describing the annual review went into the final draft. And it's hard to believe that a year has passed because here we are now, and we have this opportunity to tell a lot of exciting progress as far as getting the trail system in.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because the process to create the Trails and Bikeways plan is a long process. You mentioned the public, and we'll talk about that public involvement in a couple of minutes. But you don't just say we're going to make a trail and go lay it down. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that goes on. So in the year that you've had this foundation, what's gone on for you? What's happened with the Truckee Trails Foundation?
Okay. Our first year, we primarily focused on a fundraiser, actually. We wanted to have a good show of support from the local community, and so we started a founding program. We called it our Founding 50. It was not only meeting to discuss contribution donation to our startup funding, but really was to sit and brainstorm with the business community to hear what they thought would be important, why we want alternative transportation in Truckee. So I would say our accomplishment for the first year definitely was having those conversations in depth with 50 businesses in Truckee, and really hearing how a trail program would benefit their business, their employees, and certainly we were very successful. being able to earn cash and complete our founding program within 6 months is a loud statement that this community is really ready to work together and implement a trail system.
That is indeed significant. What kind of feedback were you getting from the business community? I think oftentimes people think of trails and they think of, you know, maybe folks recreating in the summer, but they don't really understand or don't think of it, as you just mentioned, as alternative transportation. So what were you hearing from the businesses?
That if people were able to leave their homes by bicycle and be able to go to Safeway or get downtown, it would probably bring a good traffic down into the shopping area where people would make a day of it and want to stay. And it's combining running errands with a real healthy dose of fresh Truckee air and
I will
having
say
a lot
too,
of fun.
Jim Porter, I did not put Susan Diane up to saying that. People really do ride their bicycles to Safeway, and I told you so. Let's get back to that public process, because I think that's an important element of this. It took a long time for the town of Truckee to adopt this plan, but it wasn't the town of Truckee with a big T as in the government, it was the town of Truckee with a little t as in the community. So if you can talk a little bit about that process. I know you came in sort of on the tail end of that, but I know that certainly Gavin filled you in on the details of that.
Gavin Ball was project manager. He was working for the town of Truckee, and he rounded up 40 volunteers by putting an ad in the paper who would like to contribute lots of hours.
There was no small selling this.
Evenings and Saturdays to get together and make a commitment to bring in information that people who were already out there using the trails, existing trails, corridors where it might be a PUD, utility
easement or something,
road,
right.
Bringing in all this information of the trails that were out there. This plan is based about 90% on existing roadways or pathways. So it's really not about forging across properties. So anyway, it was very definitely a public, community-based process. It was took 2 years. It took a long time to bring in the information from the community, but part of it, part of the purpose of that was because the trail users were going to bring in probably more accurate information, having just been out on the trails, and secondly,
or on the pseudo, the case may be, yeah.
And secondly, it was that for the community to truly support this trail program, it would probably be a lot better if it was created. You know, the input came from the community, therefore they can continue to support it.
That's right. That's right. And in fact, there were so many people that volunteered for the Truckee Trails Master Planning process that there were 2 committees formed. There was the initial committee, which was sort of the working body, and then there was an advisory committee, and lots of people put in a lot of hours in not only mapping, but also talking about usage and what kind of bike trails there should be and what kind of walking trails there should be, and the different materials used and the different design patterns used. And there was quite a thoughtful process, I thought, in going into all of that. What should people expect if they were to come to the Town Council meeting on Thursday, April 4th, and we'll put that plug in again. The Truckee Trails and Bikeways Master Plan is on the agenda for the Truckee Town Council meeting on April 4th, and this is up just for its required annual review. What would you expect at that meeting? What would you like to see? If you could blue sky, what would you want to see there?
First of all, Stacy Wydra, trail coordinator for Town of Truckee, will make a presentation of 4 or 5 projects that the Town of Truckee staff is actively involved in, implementing bikeway or new trail segments. So that will be very exciting because that's on the books, and those are trail segments that we'll be able to use either by the end of this summer and some of it will be constructed in 2004.
Okay. Let me stop you here. Let's go to the map. If we can, Fletch or Hartley or Jack, whoever's back there, you've got a map on your screen, and I know that some folks will find this a little disorienting, but we'll try to orient you to this. The bottom of that map, you see Donner Lake to the left of your screen. Of course, that's the west and southern portion of the town of Truckee. And then you can sort of see a series of lines running through. Now, these are proposed bikeways, is that correct?
Exactly.
Right.
The entire master plan is showing proposed corridors, some of them up to 1 mile wide.
And some of those are Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, and we'll talk about the differences in those in just a second. But you can see that there's quite a network here, and a lot of these trails are intended to hook up with trail systems outside of the town of Truckee, really leading to regional folks and other regional trails in the community. So let's talk about those 3 classes of bike lanes, if you would. What's the difference between a Class 1, a Class 2, and a Class 3 bike?
Alrighty.
Excuse me.
Well, it's interesting. We're using the word trail,
yeah.
But actually the master plan is titled Trails and Bikeways. A bikeway would be, let's start with Class 1. A Class 1 trail is a paved pathway separate from a road.
Okay.
Class 2 is a white line drawn at the side of a road with signage that it is, in fact, a bike lane.
We see that, for instance, on Donner Pass Road.
Right.
Okay.
A Class 3 is simply signage making motorists aware that that road has been designated as a bikeway, and so please share the road. We have a beautiful first example of a Class 1 trail. It's been installed at Pioneer Commerce Center, and it is, I think, the dream trail. It's ideal that we have a segment that we can point to and say, that's what
we're looking for.
We would love to have from Glenshire to Donner Lake.
And what makes that a dream trail?
It's a 8-foot wide paved meandering trail, and nicely landscaped, and it connects. It actually is hanging out there on its own right now, but it eventually will connect to the Pine Forest property, and their trail will take the pathway, the alternative transportation, onto the new middle school that's up at Alder Road, and then also it will go down eventually to Bridge Street and be our connection to downtown Truckee.
Now, the newer development, you see developers come to town with significant projects, and one of the requirements, if you will, of their project that the town mandates or works with them on is, in fact, installing some sort of trail system in their property that would connect other trails in the town. Well, that's easier to do with the new development. How do we create the trails through the older parts of town, in fact, where people may assume there's a trail, but they, in fact, may be trespassing or walking on people's private property? You had mentioned that 90% of the trails proposed in the master plan are, in fact, already on roads or on trails or easements that exist.
That's my guess percentage. Well, that's where Truckee Trails Foundation comes in.
Great.
That's our role, is to help identify placement of trail on those new developments, but then to stand back and see where linking is needed. What makes a trail system is connectivity. So a lot of what our role is to see where the 2 segments of trail maybe don't connect, and then we would make a commitment, negotiating with the property owners, probably applying for grant funding, coordinating the construction. So that's actually what Truckee Trails Foundation exists for, is to make sure that the linking happens, because one of the primary commitments of the master plan is to provide a north-south, east-west connection, safe passage for biking and walking. And development projects are required, some of them are required to implement a certain amount of trail. they're not required to make them connect to the next property.
Mm-hmm.
So we come in two ways. Way up front, we look at the plan and see the potential for connectivity before the plan or the project is even being approved. And then down the road, we will be identifying where those links are needed.
Okay. Okay, so back to the blue sky question. You have a town staff member, Stacy, who will be making a presentation and sort of showing what's happened and where you've come. What do you want to see in terms of public participation at that meeting?
It would be fantastic if we could fill the room with trail users, people who are happy to be involved and feel welcome to come in and give their input. Paco Lindsay from Paco's Bike and Ski, he always has a lot of good input.
Sorry, Paco, you just got put on the hook there.
I'm sure he'll be there. What we would like to see is truly a reunion. Last year on April 4th, the room was full, there was a lot of support, it was great fun, and most important is lots of great ideas that we were able to log in and follow through on. Like you said in the beginning of this, actually getting trail in involves tons of planning, and we have a lot of brainstorming to do. So anyone who can help with that process, it's much appreciated. Each neighborhood eventually will be connected to downtown through a safe alternative transportation trail system. And it would be great to get input from people who live in those neighborhoods.
And what about if people can't come to the meeting on April 4th? If they're interested in finding out more about trails, about the Truckee Trails Foundation, is it the best way to get a hold of you is just to call you and say, hey, Susan, what the heck are you doing out there?
It works just fine.
All right.
Yes, definitely.
And that number is 550-8420. And again, that's for the Truckee Trails Foundation, 550-8420. And that will get you to Susan, Diane, or her. She usually returns very promptly. What's next for Truckee Trails? What comes after April 4th?
For the Trail Master Plan or for the foundation?
We'll go, I'll take either. I'll bite.
Okay. I would say for the Truckee Trails Foundation, part of what we'll be talking about actually at that meeting is identifying development projects that have actual trail that will be constructed in 2003 or 2004. We'll also be talking about collaborative efforts that are going on throughout the town. We're working with Rotary Club on our Truckee River Legacy Trail segment. What's next is taking it maybe that next step beyond assisting with getting approvals and permissions and right-of-ways and easements to install trail. But then actually maybe we'll organize an event or two and the community can actually get out there and maybe help complete a trail or work on a trailhead. So maybe a little more actually in the ground.
Yeah,
we'll get something in the ground. And we are, by the way, hosting a event with IMBA, International Mountain Bike Association, in October. That should be a lot of fun.
Now, when people see the map that we put up, or when they come to the meeting on April 4th and they see the map, some people may look and say, does that run right through my backyard? Is this map in stone? Is it set in concrete, or are we still working through easements and rights-of-way?
The master plan is showing proposed corridors. So what Truckee Trails Foundation will probably produce here in the next few weeks is a second map. This map will show actual trail that has been constructed. It will continue to be used as a planning tool. But when people look at the master plan, one thing to look at is there are a lot of lines on that master plan.
Yes, there are.
It is not the town's intention or our community's intention, Truckee Trails and Foundation intention, to make all those lines become trail. We don't want to marble Truckee with trails and bikeways. So one way of looking at the plan, and you may say, wow, that sure looks like it's going through my property. Give us a call and let's look into it and see what the likeliness is The way trail segments will be chosen to be constructed is who will this trail serve, how many people, what is the potential connectivity. So not all those lines are going to be constructed.
It's the ultimate benefit of this segment versus that segment. Now, people may hear about our Truckee River Legacy, and I think it's worth pointing out what that project is. The Rotary Club several years ago adopted what they call a legacy, something to leave in the town of Truckee as a legacy. It's also considered their 100-year project. They don't anticipate doing all of it all at once. It's going to take them a while to get it on the ground. But it's basically the protection of the Truckee River, the rehabilitating of the Truckee River, but also access to the river, if even only just visually. So the trail along the Truckee River is a part of that, and the Rotary Club has been working with the town of Truckee. I know with the Truckee Trails Foundation, there's a few organizations at play here.
Absolutely. Truckee Donner Land Trust definitely is becoming actively involved
the
with
Recreation
us.
and Park District.
Right, Park and Rec. Yeah. But you mentioned the word access, and that's very important to remember that a big purpose of the trail system is to guarantee us access to the open space. Sometimes a developer in a review meeting will say, gee, is the purpose of this trail to bring the public to my project? And truly it's not. It's really to move the public safely and happily through an infill project to make sure that we can get out there to the open space that we all love.
All right, well, so we'll say this one more time. April 4th, Thursday, Town of Truckee, their regular town council meeting will be at 6 p.m. on that evening, and the Truckee Trails and Bikeways Master Plan is on the agenda that evening, and it's up for its required annual review. So if you're interested in the Truckee Trails Plan, you want to find out more about it, come to that meeting, and if you want to find out more ahead of time, you can contact the Truckee Trails Foundation, and that's Susan Diane, at 550-8420. Susan, we just have a couple of seconds left, so I'll just ask you quickly, what's next on your plate?
Oh my gosh.
And you've got 15 seconds.
What's next on my plate? Oh my gosh, I wish I had something clever for you.
Well, it sounds like a lot of trail building is in your future.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, good.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being on today's show.
Thank you,
I really
Maya.
appreciate it, and
This
good luck
has been
with
great.
this.
Thank you.
All right, again, we'll see you April 4th at the Town of Truckee regular council meeting, and stay tuned. We'll be right back with upcoming events in and around our region. And welcome back to the show, and now here's your calendar of upcoming events in and around our region for the week starting February 27th, 2003. And in 2 words, folks, here's what's going on: Snow Festival. Opening ceremonies will be Friday the 28th at Squaw Valley, USA, including the Torchlight Parade, and a variety of fun events are scheduled in the Truckee Tahoe area through March 9th. Favorite events that are coming back include the Pancake Breakfast, the Polar Bear Swim, the Fastest Bartender Competition, and more. To find a full event schedule, check out the local papers and go out and have some fun. You can also call 583-5605 for more information. And March 4th through the 8th, North Star at Tahoe is hosting the USCSA College Nationals. The top collegiate men and women skiers and snowboarders will be competing for national titles. Call 562-2288 for more information. And March 7th, go out and ski for Tahoe Women's Services at Sugar Bowl Ski Resort. Tickets are half priced, and you have to pick them up before the day of the event. You can purchase the tickets, easy for me to say, by credit card by calling 775-298-0010. And the 27th annual Rotary Ski Challenge is Friday, March 7th at Alpine Meadows Ski Resort. Come watch Rotarians from all over the western states compete on the slopes of Alpine Meadows and root for your favorite Rotarian from the Tahoe City, Incline Village, or Truckee clubs. Personally, I'm pulling for the Rotary Club of Truckee Noon, of course, and wishing my comrades speed and fun. Remember, guys, faster and faster until the thrill of victory overcomes the fear of death. Also, March 8th, the Missoula Children's Theater presents Jack and the Beanstalk at the North Tahoe High School. Call 546-4602 for details. Brian Regolo, we're all pulling for you here at TTC TV. Get better soon, you're looking great. And folks, remember Sierra News and Views, taping live the second and fourth Thursday of each month. Taping this month, we'll be talking about the Iraq War, or whether or not to have one. So tune into Channel 6 for that. We want to say thanks again to Susan Diane for being our guest on this week's Truckee Talks. If you have any comments on the show or would like to join our team, call me at home, 587-4982. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week on Truckee Talks.
Thank you.